One.
Thursday morning, kicking off the show, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, RKW, 615-737-1045, streaming live on 1045 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.
Twitch, please.
We're back on Twitter, baby.
Whoa, Reed Smith.
Reed!
You gotta be
Reed.
quicker than that.
Fight me, Reed, when I see you, okay? We're not fighting. Wrestle me, okay? That's all I want to do. No punches. Nobody hits the faces, okay?
I don't want to do that.
He's like,
Not
I'll
in your
check
best
out on that.
interest.
I was all leisure and stuff here. Okay, all right. See how we're doing it now.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, man.
What did we learn yesterday? Practice 1 down, practice 2 coming up at 9 o'clock today. Your headline from practice yesterday is what?
I was wrong about John Ojukwu.
Okay.
Oh.
What were you wrong about?
I didn't know if he'd have a
Interesting.
solid, legitimate, fair chance to win the right tackle starting position.
Okay.
Coach Callahan did brief us and say what, though? It was like in his Monday press conference, hey, just because a guy start there doesn't mean he's going to end there. But we are officially in training camp season. And a guy that is from John Ojukwu, I'm looking him up
Boise
real quick.
State.
Boise State, as an undrafted free agent. If I'm not mistaken, he probably got $1,000 a sign, something similar to myself, okay?
Seriously.
Has somehow worked himself into NFL shape. I thought he was a little bit last year. I thought he was a slender tackle, meaning his legs look like they have grown some as far as the mass on them. I didn't know that he would open up training camp as RT1. And as far as it stands, yesterday to me, from who I evaluated at right tackle 2, Jalen Duncan, I was pleasantly pleased with what I saw with John Ojukwu. I didn't know he'd get a fair shake.
So he has a legitimate shot at being the right tackle out of camp.
I think more than a legitimate shot. I didn't take what Coach Brian Callahan said to be real during the earlier springtime and minicamp and OTAs, basically. And he even said it on the last OTP that he did with Mike Keith and Amy Wells, and he gushed about John Ojukwu. And I just thought, it's hard for me to believe coach speak. It just is like you're always looking over somebody's head, right? Especially when we're talking about undrafteds. But here's the thing. He's seen this young man walk in that facility each and every day. He's seen him walk. He walked in with a blank canvas, and he admitted he didn't know a lot about him. Same way he didn't know a lot about Jack Gibbons, right? He didn't.
Yep.
And what I am seeing is they will acknowledge if you're good enough and compete and are a consummate pro, you will get a fair shot. And to open up training camp, y'all, it means nothing, right? It doesn't until they name the starters. But it does. Psychologically and just in front of the world, being on that first day of practice as the first depth, right? It means something. And I didn't think it was real, and I think it is.
Can I ask you something about him in terms of his physique? Because this is the guy I brought up to you that my friend covered at Boise State, and he said he literally had the coaches giving him a gallon of milk a day to be able to keep weight on. And I'm curious from your perspective, from an offensive lineman, is he physique-wise, does he need to do anything? Could he get stronger? Is it okay where he is? That's because that was always the question. He's a little bit smaller when you look at him compared to other offensive linemen.
Yeah. You know what? I judged on what I thought this team was looking for as far as body types and size. Like, as far as Coach Brian Callahan goes, I figured they wanted a guy that was probably like 330, bigger dude at right tackle, because it seemed like they're going to get to a ground and pound. But here's the thing about it. The agility of his, I think, supplements everything else. From what I saw with no pads yesterday, he was forceful. His footwork was good. Bert, and I pointed out to you, his ability to redirect, I think, is more than anything. As far as, like, him getting out of his stance and Kayla's size, like, body mass or not, he was able to anchor. That's what I saw yesterday. So I played with a guy that was 280. He would never say that, okay?
Wow.
A center. Marquise was 280. He'll never say that, or 285.
Okay.
Still bigger than Aaron Brewer.
Yeah, exactly. And I played with a guy, Kelvin Beacham, who was shorter. Beach is 6'2", maybe 6'3", and he held his weight at probably like 305. But he has super long arms like John Ojukwu, and he's a career starter now. So size doesn't necessarily matter as much, because if you fit what the team wants you to do, you're smart enough to handle it, and you can, go through the process of being consistent each and every play, which is why I think John Ojukwu has been, from all we've heard about him. We go back and really look at and highlight all the things that were said about him in the spring, they were telling him. Me personally, I will say I just didn't believe him. I always thought they was going to be looking over his head.
And that's really good to know. And I know it's day one, but that's really something to keep an eye out, especially because there's not a lot to, compete right now with that position in terms of another guy who we've seen a lot out here. I mean, we have seen him since the start of OTAs. You're right. Yeah. And until Nicholas Petit-Frere gets out here and we're able to kind of shine some light on him, this is kind of a story if you think about it.
I don't know how much I can give, which is what I won't say. I'll ask you guys too. Can I say if a person threw up or not yesterday?
Yeah,
I can. All right. So in the drill work, not even the team stuff. Okay, Jalen Duncan was puking. But I guess here's the thing too with puking, that some people just naturally do it. Like, I never was a puker. I never threw up over the course of working out. You know what I'm saying? So, but I saw him be more tired. It looked like, at least at the start of this camp, John Njoku came in well-conditioned, poised, ready to actually play and make it through all of practice. Now, to be fair to Jalen Duncan, too, he didn't do much of the OTAs and minicamp. I think he came out the last day or last 2 days of week of minicamp. And it looked like he was a tick or two behind, right? I can say that. It looked like it. But as far as powering through the first day, as far as going with the ones, as far as looking like he was a pro, John Njoku looked like it yesterday. Yeah. And Jalen Duncan went with the twos, was on the ground a time or two. Like, those were the things that I was pointing out yesterday that I saw with my own eyes now that we can talk about.
That's really interesting. Speaking of just kind of being in shape, I think I took from probably 8 or 9 guys that I talked to yesterday, and this is probably a theme I remember hearing every start of the season, but a lot of these guys are really always like, we need to get back into shape. Like, this is definitely football. It's different from just going into the workout room. Football shape is different. You heard from a lot of the guys yesterday that these few first days, it is kind of getting back in the groove of that and the football shape. And speaking of that, T'Vondre Sweat, who I know we're going to hear from later and we spoke to after practice yesterday, I think he looked okay, but I think you could see there is some catching up to do for him because he did miss a little bit of time. I think he has the right mindset that he's trying not to have anything shake him in terms of what we expect him timeline to be, on. He has his own timeline and he knows that. And the more I kind of watch things happen in Tracy Rocker and how he teaches, I have put complete trust in Tracy Rocker to kind of get T'Vondre Sweat where he needs to be. But I think we as fans and media need to understand, like, he has his own timeline. So if we think maybe he needs to be at a certain place 3 days into camp, that's not necessarily what they want out of him. And I think with Jeffrey Simmons, too, just watching him be out there with him yesterday just reaffirmed how good that is going to be for the young rookie. By the way, Jeff, who, by the way, said he doesn't want to go over 310 this year. So another kind of setting an example, too, in terms of making sure you stick with what, you have your goals out for your weight that season.
Will Levis yesterday, what do we think?
Pretty good.
I think pretty good.
Yeah.
Decent. Yeah. Made one really good throw to Nick Westbrook-Akine on the right sideline, layered it through essentially a cover 2.
It was Jamal Adams.
Where he just kind of placed it between the flat and the safety that was defending over the top. And 4 of 4 in the first 7-on-7 period, 3 of 4 in the second. And it was a little sloppier at the end of practice, and there were some balls on the ground. There were 3 fumbles late, but Levis overall, decent start.
Really, I would say I was going to say really good. Good start. That's what we'll go with. And they also reported that the coaches didn't want them, just airing it out and just
nothing vertical. Where the names are the words on the script. So they did not want a hamstring pulled. They did not want vertical routes run down the field. Everything. I think the longest throw Levis made was maybe 5 yards past the line of scrimmage yesterday.
Yeah, that was a cross ramp. I thought to Calvin Ridley over the middle. that I think may have been 25 yards, if that will, Kayla.
Well, if he'd caught it,
yeah.
If he caught it, yeah.
Yeah,
Who defended? I was trying to figure out who defended on that. I didn't see, but yeah,
doesn't ring a bell with me just off top. But Levis in general, I thought was solid yesterday. That pass, and we were talking and digesting it from the back of the end zone. I was like, okay. And one thing was super specific yesterday with Jamal Adams playing closer to the line of scrimmage, so I was watching him. And he dropped to the flats, did exactly what you needed him to. I thought he was in a really good spot. I was like, oh, that's going to be a pick. And Will Levis' touch is, I guess, the word we're looking for today or yesterday is what happened. His touch to deliver that football to NWI 2 feet down on the sideline is something that I don't know if we would have thought he would have made last year. I don't know if that's a last year's pass.
Yeah. I mean, it goes to show just how much he's been able to build upon everything. I think that's been so important for him this year, just knowing that he is the starter and, okay, this is things that I have to do and kind of layer everything. And we'll hear a ton from, the guys yesterday on Will Levis and Will Levis himself talking about specific things that they're working on in camp. I asked him about, making mistakes, and he also kind of reaffirmed what Brian Callahan said. Yeah, there's some of that. I'm going to take some risks further on as we get into camp and see what works and what doesn't work. But I just love his poise. I love the leadership he's showing, and the getting too high and too low. I think he's still going to be Will Levis when it's all said and done. But I think he's really starting to learn how to be a pro. And I think the guys respect the hell out of it.
You know what else I also noticed yesterday, too? Y'all know I will always try to give responsibility to who deserves it, right? And I've said time and time again, there are a lot of dumb coaches in this league that just don't do things the right way. And I don't want to say dumb, but they just have systems where they don't want to break what they do. They don't want to break their routines, right? Well, yesterday we saw a play happen with the third team in the team setting, and it was with Malik Willis, right? And what I saw was them craft stuff that was specifically fit for his athletic ability. He was the only quarterback yesterday that ran. He pulled the ball and went around the outside. And I was just like, setting guys up for success isn't just predicated on the person sometimes, not just the player. You got to give guys what worked for them sometimes. That's like you choosing, if you're an undrafted free agent or a free agent in general. Yeah. You can go from having 17 sacks and you go to a team because of the money, right? But that team doesn't know how to set you up defensively to get those 17 sacks out of you again. Right. And I was just excited for Malik yesterday, having a staff that understand with Nick Holtz and Brian Callahan, look, we got to use his legs. And they did. I don't know what it means for the Tennessee Titans because he's third on the depth chart, right? But they at least know what he should be doing in games.
Right.
I think for me the takeaway is the way they use Jamal Adams on defense. I think this team is likely still in market for a safety. And I think based on the way they are going to deploy Jamal and from what we heard from Jamal Adams, this is not the loud blitz boy, boisterous Jamal Adams of old. I think the Titans are getting a different personality in Jamal Adams than anyone else who has employed him in the NFL previously. He spoke with the media yesterday, and speaking about Denard Wilson specifically, his former secondary coach while he was in New York, now defensive coordinator obviously here. This was the Titans safety yesterday talking about his defensive coordinator.
So many things. He's a very unique guy, one of one. Obviously just his accountability, just staying on the players, making sure everybody's, chasing greatness. Obviously I feel like I got away from that a little bit. You can't slack around him. You can't slack around any of these coaches out here because they're pushing you to be the best.
So that was Adams on Denard Wilson, and then there's Jamal Adams on how tough last season was for him and the injuries he went through, not being able to walk at one point. And to me, guys, this sounds like a very motivated Jamal Adams. This was him at the podium yesterday.
It's been really tough. I've realized that you can love the game, but the game doesn't love you back. And I've realized that, no matter what, you got to keep your head down and keep a close circle because, everybody's going to change on you. I was at the top of the chart, the highest of the highest, the best of the best, and I was at the bottom. And now I'm working myself right back to the top. That's what it's about for me. And obviously just being down for, a year, not being able to walk. I was in a straight brace for, 10 to 15 weeks, not being able to, shower by myself, get out the bed by myself. I was in a wheelchair, humbling beginnings, you know what I mean? And it wasn't even about football. It was more so just about life. A lot of things kind of happened over time. I just buried my grandmother. So, I've just been focused on my family and what makes me happy. Outside noise is just outside noise. Everybody can have their opinion about me, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to continue to be myself, be a great guy, which I am, and be a great teammate.
Now, he did mention as well that he's not going to trash talk on the first day because he's just trying to learn the defense and learn where to go. So he left that for Arden Key and Jeffrey Simmons yesterday. But I think the Titans are getting a humbled Jamal Adams. And after seeing the way they deployed him yesterday, which we can't get into the minutia of, I'll say from a broad perspective, they have got a plan on how to use him. Yeah. And I don't think that he is a like-for-like replacement for Elijah Molden. No,
and I agree with you. Took the words right out of my mouth. I think you are getting a humble Jamal Adams who has seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And I do love, though, the fact that you still see the energy he can bring. Like, he still has that energy and passion for football, hence why he's still playing and signed a one-year deal. He knows it's a prove-it deal. He was asked that several times yesterday. And I know that the situation with Seattle maybe didn't end perfectly, and Teron Davenport actually asked the question of if they asked you to change positions, which what I've heard was linebacker. He's clearly not asked to technically change positions down here because he is listed as a safety. And like you said, we can't go into details about how to deploy him, but you'll see, like, he's going to fit into this defense the way that Denard Wilson is going to get the most out of him. And he's fine with that. And I think that's a good thing to have that relationship, though, because he respects the hell out of Denard Wilson, and he even said, like, he expects us to always be on our game. And he admitted sometimes maybe not being as, intense in situations in the past. And I feel like he's going to keep him, to his highest level here. But I just think he'll add something to that room in general in terms of the leadership part, in terms of the energy he will bring on the field eventually when he does decide to run his mouth a little bit. But I think it's a good add for the money and for this type of defense, how they'll use him.
Man, I got out of that more on the first part because y'all hit the humbleness perfectly, but appreciative. I think a lot of guys come into the league, if you're a first rounder or you just find your way being a veteran in this league for a while and just think, hey, a lot of stuff that you go through is automatic. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And now he hit the bottom. And now he's understanding, well, I am human. And one thing I thought that was super unique about him talking about Coach Wilson, Coach Denard Wilson, and Frank Bush and the others around him was this. He wants to be coached.
Yeah.
I think he got left out in Seattle or whatever transpired against them, and he just realized that, look, anybody will move on from you. I don't care if they're yelling at you, praising you, or what. Talk to me and coach me up. And that was a good and refreshing to hear from a guy like him. If that is his mentality and he stays healthy, I think you can get a lot out of a guy like this, man, and potentially build through it because, again, he's going into year 8. It's not like he's super old, right? So if you can have a great year out of him and get him at that level of play for the next 3 years, I think that's solid while you transition with some of these younger guys that need to fill in roles as he get older. So I use the word appreciative, and I think everybody have those moments right there as a pro, and this was his first one. I know he got locked out of the building, but he's probably appreciative they finally opened it up. But now it's more real.
I was going to add real quick about Diggs. Quandre Diggs, thanks you. So he did get asked about that. He did actually say, look, I've talked to him every day, and I've told him I want him to be here, and it's kind of up to you. So I feel like there is probably conversation that could be happening. Whether or not that happens, I don't know, but there is open dialogue between at least those two.
Those two have known each other for a long time,
yeah.
From what Adam said yesterday. Two guys not out on the practice field yesterday, Daniel Brunskill and Harold Landry. Paul Kaharski reporting they were both sick.
Okay.
Why they were unavailable yesterday. 615-737-1045. We go to Indianapolis when we come back, where the Big Ten power of UCLA had an awkward start at Big Ten Media Days. We'll play some very interesting audio that's going to make you squirm a little bit coming up next.